Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 24th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery here to point out this big ridge off the coast of North America as we speak. Storm track moving up towards Alaska here. We're going to back this ridge up even a little bit more here and start some north and northeast flow down across Pacific Northwest here and bring some cold air into the area. Will that mean snowfall for some of the lower elevations? Maybe, maybe not. We'll look at those details here in a moment. Now, taking a look at current hazards, you can see not much going on, just some dense fog for the Willamette Valley, some of the coastal range there as well. That will change though as we go towards the end of the week coming up here. And you can see this National Weather Service Spokane graphic here, snow by the end of the week. So further you go east, looks like the better snow chances are going to be, including some of the Cascades and some of the models picking up a pretty good amount as well. But you can see highest accumulations will be across the Idaho Panhandle Mountains on in through western Montana. Good graphic here by the National Weather Service Spokane. And this is highlighting the colder temperatures coming in next week, teens to mid-20s for some of the highs. So it's going to get pretty chilly here. The snowfall chances are still more up in the air and uncertain at this point, but you can see low single digits and teens. Another good graphic here from the Spokane National Weather Service. This is the Arctic air moving down into Montana. Very high confidence and some very cold air moving down into Montana out there. It doesn't take much snow to make things slick or to cause that blowing and drifting snow. It can reduce visibility pretty dramatically out there. So good graphic here from National Weather Service Missoula. This is Pendleton here, and you can just kind of highlight the cold temperatures coming here as we go later on in through the weekend into early next week. So heads up for that. Now, this is looking at European yesterday afternoon's run, trying to time some of these systems. You can see some snowfall across BC and the North Washington Cascades as we go through today into tomorrow morning, pushing off through the east. So we'll watch out for that. There's some accumulation, some moderate snowfall is possible across eastern portions there. Another frontal system, a stronger one, moves down. Snow for the Cascades, Oregon, Washington. You can see northeast Oregon getting a good shot of snowfall. This would be Friday afternoon shown here as the system drops down to the south in front of this Arctic air mass, trying to make its way into BC here, but it's got this terrain feature, the Rockies, that does not like to allow Arctic air off to the west of it. And you can see that means not much of a signal for lowland snow through the Puget Sound and the Willamette Valley, even though it does show a little bit trying to get in there with the cold air. We'll see how much this can get over water trajectory and what kind of cyclogenesis will develop here to see what kind of snowfall we'll get into the lower areas here. But you can see it brings another good round of snowfall all the way down through Oregon into California here for the higher terrain, the Sierra Nevada. That would be much welcome down there as well, even though they did get a lot recently. But then on through the extended forecast here, we're just kind of looking at tea leaves at this point. But the Arctic air mass does look to start to move out of the area here, but we'll see how that develops in future runs. Now looking at total snow Kuchera, this is the European. First system as we go through tonight and tomorrow there. The next system, a stronger cold front, moves through Friday and Friday night. Some pretty good amounts coming up. So if you're traveling eastbound out of Spokane through Idaho, Montana, eastern BC, northeast Oregon, watch out for some pretty intense winter driving conditions here. And then another system moves through this weekend as well, with some snowfall across the Cascades of Oregon, Washington. And we'll have to watch closely to see if there's going to be any kind of lowland snowfall potential with these systems as they come through. Right now, it does not look like high confidence at all in that. And you can see the snow pile up across the Sierras, the higher terrain of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, BC, northeast Oregon as well. Some of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, at least according to the European. And this would be 10 days out, all the way into the following Thursday shown there. This is the Canadian. We're just going to speed ahead here. And you can see it has lesser amounts for the Washington, Oregon Cascades, but it does show that big signal for eastern BC, Idaho, Montana, and some for the Sierra Nevada as well through the 10-day period. And this one is hot off the presses there. 12Z is 4 a.m. here, Pacific Standard Time. This is the European total precipitation in inches, and you can kind of see we're just not going to be that wet here across Pacific Northwest. Going to be below average, have a deficit precipitation-wise with this colder northerly flow across the area here, but I assume that these models are going to change. We have to watch these closely here because small changes in the path of this air off the continent here can really mean big differences for snowfall potential into the lower elevations, even west of the Cascades here. So we're watching that day by day right now. Now, this is the European 2-meter temperature here. This is yesterday afternoon's run. We're taking a look at surface temperature here. Now, as we put this into motion, you can see the cold air as we go through Friday morning trying to come down across the Rockies here. But again, that terrain feature does not like to let cold air come across it. As you can see, some does spill out into BC here, and it does get pretty chilly east of the Cascades. Western Montana, big cool down coming, Arctic air blast coming for them. And you can see it does get pretty chilly at times here on in through the Willamette Valley, Puget Sound, all the way down through southern Oregon as well. So we'll have to watch that closely to see if we're dealing with any precipitation by the time we drop below freezing here as we go on in through later this weekend into early next week. Right now, the trajectory is not favorable, though. Now, taking a look here, this is yesterday European run. This is 18,000 feet, 500 millibars, ridge and trough position here. You can see that ridge back up like I talked about. First lobe kind of misses to the east if you're concerning Seattle and Portland here, but it is going to bring rounds of snowfall here, again, east of the Cascades, which include the Cascades as well. The secondary lobe, as it comes through on Saturday, looks to try to get a little bit closer. If this were to come off the continent a little bit further north, it could grab a bit more moisture here and maybe bring a better snow chance here for some of the lowland areas, but you can see what it's doing right now. Kind of spinning off the west coast there, and then you can see that ridge kind of kick things away here, but the ridge kind of remains here across through the extended forecast in the European here. So it's kind of interesting here. We'll have to see if this develops like this on into the extended, but we're way out there at this point, 300 hours, so not much use looking at that right now. Now look at what's going on here. This is 500 millibar winds, so you need these winds to kind of come off the continent here and include Western Washington. You can see that first lobe does not much. This one tries to, but the trajectory is really quick offshore there, and it might not bring much cold air aloft with it across the Pacific Northwest here. So we have to watch these ripples very closely here as we go day by day into early next week, shown there. Now this is looking at 850 millibars, 5,000 foot temperature anomaly. You'll see the ridge back up here, allow for the north flow, the cold air, and you can clearly see it being hampered by the Rockies here. It would spread out a little bit better if we did not have that mountain range here, but of course we do. So the cold signal is likely coming. We're going to get chilly. You'll feel that across the entire Pacific Northwest. Big time cold as you go out towards Montana here. And some of this cold tries to set up across British Columbia here as well onto the extended forecast. But really just that below average signal across much of the Pacific Northwest here. But a lot of this cold air is staying east of the Rockies here for now. This is the European control run here as well. Taking a look at this. And you can see similar goings on here, as you can see a lot of this through the extended forecast stays east of the Rockies here. Way out into 300 plus hour territory here. Looks like we're going to remain below normal here. You see this big ridge over Alaska. That's what it would equal as far as temperatures aloft. Now looking at the European control 2-meter temperature anomaly here. Let's put this into motion here. Ridge backs up, and you can see we're going to be that below average here, but again, the trajectory just not that favorable for lowlands, so into Seattle, Portland, or Vancouver right now, but we will watch that closely, and you can see the bulk of that cold air staying east of the Rockies there, potentially impacting places on through the east coast, but we do remain cold on through the extended. Now taking a look at the precipitation deficit really quickly here. 15-day precipitation anomalies here. We're going to be well below average across much of the Pacific Northwest here on through the 15-day period. But that does not mean you can't get some good snowfall across the Cascades and the Sierra Nevada down there. And you can see that highlighted above average signal here across some of the Intermountain West here. Excuse me, including Oregon, Idaho, Montana, BC off to the east there, as these lobes would bring a little bit better dynamics for some snowfall out there. Now, one more look before we wrap things up. Again, this was one day further into the La Nina cycle here. I believe this one goes out 90 days here, but you can see La Nina was in charge, but now look at we got this warm water at the end of the run. Look at that building up across the coast of South America. La Nina likely on its way out here. So it had a nice 3-season run here, but we are likely headed towards neutral conditions, and that is highlighted well here in the models. You can see December, January, February here. By the time we get into February, we're clearly moving out of La Nina here towards neutral conditions. Neutral conditions would be 0.5 to negative 0.5 temperature anomalies across the equatorial Pacific. So as soon as we move above this line, we would technically be in El Nino conditions here. And you can see none of the ensemble runs even have us into La Nina conditions as we go on in through the summer, fall, or winter here coming up. And both the dynamic and statistical average here have us above the El Nino condition threshold there as we go on in through October. So interesting signal coming up here. Let's see how the models handle this, and we'll keep watching that as we go week by week here. So anyway, yeah, below average precip, below average temperatures as well. Chance for a lowland snowfall event still exists there. We'll watch that trajectory closely, but right now it's looking like a lot of that cold air is going to stay across the Rockies east, with some of it leaking out over BC and down into eastern Washington, Oregon, and potentially a system coming down towards California and bringing some additional snowfall to the Sierra Nevada. Excuse me. But anyway, yeah, so here comes the pattern here. The pattern change is coming. We'll see how this develops here. Sometimes these things can change quite rapidly, so we'll continue to watch this day by day, and we'll break things down as we go. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day out there. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.